This is my presentation about psychology and psychotherapy and art for Psychology 110 by my Beth Mann. So the history of art therapy is quoted here by Newcomb. Arts and as expression is not new. It has been used since the beginning of human history as a medium for communicating thoughts, feelings, and ideas. During the 1930s and 1940s, creative arts therapies became more widely known as helpful for people with mental illness. So, an example of this could be obviously insane asylums were widely used back then. A woman who could be, doing anything that's considered normal nowadays for a woman would be put in an insane asylum back then for certain things. However, a lot of the times they would do art therapy, and they still use art therapy in psychiatric facilities. I've had friends that have gone for stays for mental help, and a lot they have daily art therapy sessions where they just paint whatever they want, or they have to paint something that's there. It's like wine and art sessions are very popular nowadays for people, and obviously so, as they provide like group therapy almost, where everyone can just go and talk and paint, and any form of art is known to be relaxing, as well as also just having that openness and being able to express how you feel without judgment. The use of arts in the context of counseling happens frequently. Handing a child markers and paper and asking them to draw what they remember, listening with a young person to the lyrics of a favorite song, and witnessing the poetry arising from a person's grief. Many counselors may not even consider this to be part of the arts, thinking it is merely another tool for expression during the therapeutic journey. This is also quoted from Newcomb. However, I also agree with this as well. So, like, again, just referencing the thought of the arts in itself being therapeutic, helping those dealing with trauma, dealing with anything, how song lyrics can sometimes help people heal from certain things. I know personally some songs have helped me with the death of my mother, and it's definitely something that's been therapeutic, listening to certain songs that she liked or certain songs that remind me of her, especially where I'm using images and songs to make for her presentation for her services. So it all has that funny way of, incorporating art into therapy. And a lot of times we do it in everyday life without even realization. So pictured here is a kid doing some art, could just be art class, but a lot of times children who are either having emotional issues, facing trauma, whether that's like a parent getting a divorce, or they faced a trauma like a sexual assault or physical assault or post-traumatic stress disorder, any sort of thing, or are showing signs of some mental illness. A lot of times in therapy, they will have children do either play therapy, or they'll have them do something called art therapy, where they go in and they have them paint like, oh, mommy and daddy are fighting. They're not going to be together anymore. Can you show me what it's like when they fight? So it can be a lot of yelling, and then sometimes if it's a kid in a troubled home, it could be mommy and daddy fighting back and forth and sometimes hitting each other. It can be a number of things. If the child has anxiety, it can just be a number of instances. And then the child can, instead of, if they can't verbally express it, especially if they have like autism or they're nonverbal or they just have a hard time communicating, then this can be a good way for the child to express how they feel through art. So they could draw a picture, or they could paint red because red means angry or black or whatever. And then over here we have my friend Kyle McCarthy. He's actually a school psychologist at a Title I school. So he deals with a lot of troubled children, not just like emotional issues, but gang violence, all that sort of stuff. He helps between high school and elementary school. So they have people who have older siblings that are in high school who are in gangs, and the elementary school students see their big siblings wanting to do that, and they want to get involved, and they want to be like their older sibling. So then they start acting out emotionally, and then that's when something like play therapy or art therapy will come into play. So he's a school psychologist, and he stated art therapy gives children a way to express themselves and the social situations they might be having. Some issues could be parents fighting, a family death, or even a form of abuse. These give the child a way to express how they feel if they can't verbally say what they want to. And honestly, it's just very helpful. And sometimes it can be helpful even for adults. Even if they are able to verbally express how they feel, this can help them just voice it in a different way, but through art. So how it works, again, at my friend Kyle, he's a school psychologist, Title I school, in Atlanta, Georgia. So he faces quite a bit of violence from gang violence and shootings, threats. So I work in a Title I school system that faces many issues like gang violence and school shooting threats. This job alone is hard, but even more so when you see younger kids, like in 3rd grade, struggling with emotions because their older sibling is joining a gang. They want to be like them, so we try to help them express their emotions in a healthy way by coloring. So in this picture, you can see that there's aggression and there's possibly some anger or maybe even trust issues. Would you catch? Like those sorts of things. Like the child is feeling like they can't trust somebody maybe or anybody at all. And this itself is just providing an insight into how the child could be feeling. So instead, like in his instance, he was telling me he's dealing with a kid right now whose older sibling, is being initiated into gangs. And the 3rd grade sibling is having to witness all this going down and wants to be like their older sibling, but they're in 3rd grade, so they don't completely comprehend and understand everything. So in hindsight, they're having the child start doing like painting, coloring, like to express what's going on and how they feel. So when they're angry, he refers to himself with his name and saying, this is angry name, this is happy name. So whenever they have an emotion, they say the emotion and then their name. So they don't quite understand the emotion yet from what my friend had told me. So they're trying to communicate it to them with coloring and play. So that way they start to understand their emotions and why they feel those ways and what they mean and how to control them. Because this is how their brother started out with emotional issues, which then deferred them to having gang violence and all those sorts of things. So they're hoping by doing this at this age, they can hopefully defer it from getting any further. What is CBT? So this picture kind of paints an adult or even a young teenager or something painting just splatter paint. And I've done this before and it's very therapeutic. Just throwing paint, just going crazy, just all your emotions, just letting it all out and getting crazy with paint everywhere. And it's so therapeutic. It's great. I loved it. I found this very fun. I did it on a white sheet and I actually kind of want to do it again after seeing this. So the term behavioral cognitive therapy is an umbrella concept for an area of therapeutic interventions. Mahoney and Arnkoff, 1978, identified 3 major forms of CBT. Cognitive structuring therapies, therapies focused on adaptive capacities, and problem-solving therapies. So cognitive structuring therapies, from my understanding, are just therapies that kind of help you structure out your cognitive thinking And then therapy is focused on adaptive capacities, also just kind of help you understand what's going on with like your behavior. And then problem solving therapies help you solve the problem. So, like, for instance, my therapist will say, okay, so you have this problem, you react this way, why don't we try it this way and use these tools? And it's very helpful and therapeutic. Over here, we see someone with painting and all these bright different colors. Sometimes people just paint with colors of sorts of like emotion, but sometimes they just do it because they like the colors. So these are my personal thoughts, as well as my friend Kyle's. So I personally believe in art therapy and had a great discussion with Kyle McCarthy, and he voiced his thought that saying, I believe it can definitely help children, especially those who are voicing how they feel in a divorce or even those with communication issues. An example can be someone with autism can use this tool to benefit them by expressing how they feel this way. Now, with this, he kind of went on further and explaining that, like, when children are like assaulted of any sort, that they go to like a center and they have to explain what happened, and a lot of the times the child will stutter or shut down or not be able to communicate. And without the child realizing, sometimes they will color things and draw things of what happens to them at home or what happened to them in that instance. So, like, if the child was sexually assaulted, the child could just draw themselves and then draw the person on top of them or beside them or something like that, something that's scary. And dark colors and things that just look vicious versus, oh, they're a happy child, they're okay. They're going to draw like pretty colors and stuff. They're going to draw flowers and sunshine, and those sorts of things. So basically, having all these tools to help children identify how they feel with the art therapy is very beneficial. Expression. So, for expression, this is a very big quote, so bear with me. In 1979, Carnes noted that since imagery, visual thinking, and creativity were aspects of cognition, personal constructs could be both nonverbal and nonverbal. I think that's repeated. I didn't notice that. Thus, the accomplishment of the artistic work provides an opportunity to express nonverbal ideas that could represent the core of a system of personal constructions of an individual. By having the subjects draw a set of mental states of their personal constructs, it may help them to gain a greater understanding of themselves and their belief systems. So, again, I stated it again here below just because this is the only thing I can really pertain it to about children being sexually assaulted or anything like that, because this is a lot of the times when it's used as children, and that's been even quoted when I was reading this information, because they have a hard time expressing their feelings. Even my 4-year-old can't form sentences very well. She's in speech. So this could benefit her in a situation of being angry, or like if she's at daycare and a kid hit her and she can't express it, or like a kid did something and she can't quite explain it, she can maybe draw it out or color it or do something of the sort or like even use play therapy or whatever sort of therapy and like explain it that way, just like any other kid. So as far as set of mental states and how like their constructs work, so like to me, this could be like drawing out different emotions and how you feel like you react with every emotion. So when you're sad, how do you act when you're sad? When you're angry, how do you act when you're angry? Do you overreact when you're angry? And that sort of stuff. Because I feel like that, that happens quite a bit. Is it changing? Okay. Now, question and answer slide. Did you ever use art therapy? Music, artwork, painting, etc. I know I personally did, and then I found it very great, therapeutic. I'm not great at art. I'm horrible at it. I did not get the genetic gene for being creative. Did you benefit from this therapy as a child or as an adult if you did use this therapy method? Like I said, I personally did. I don't know about others, but I find it very good. Have you ever heard of art therapy before? So, funny enough, I asked my therapist this today, and she said she didn't know enough about the subject because I wanted to use her as a last minute person in my slideshow. And what did you learn from this slideshow? I learned today that art therapy is, used for an array of things. And there's not just art therapy, there's like music therapy, there's all these other things. And I do remember music therapy being beneficial for PTSD in that paper I wrote. So it's kind of coinciding, and I love that all these are coinciding together. If you ever used art therapy, if you never used art therapy, would you try it? I already have, and I loved it. I thought it was great. So, I mean, overall. And then this is my slow transition, my references. I've got my personal communication up there, and my two peer-reviewed ones as well. But and that's all. Thank you so much for a great psychology class. I really appreciate it. It was a great class, and I was very happy, and I learned quite a bit. And I'm glad that I had you as my psychology professor, and it was very refreshing to have you instead of the first option I was going to have for a psychology professor. And it honestly made me look forward to the class. Thank you very much, and I hope I have you again for if I take another psychology class.